So in the Minnesota woods, there was a dilapidated martin bird house. And a man saw it, and it just didn't sit well with him. And so he decided he was going to build a new one. And so he did, and he put it out in the middle of the woods there. And ever so often, he'd get kind of curious, and he'd go and he'd look, and, well, there were no birds coming. And he was so surprised, well, I've built this nice birdhouse. Where are the birds? That's kind of why you have a birdhouse, so you have birds. And so he would go and he'd look. Well, no birds were coming. And one day he went with his son. He asked his son to come along, and they're looking, and there's a woodpecker pecking at the birdhouse. And the guy goes, "What are you doing? No, these are not for you. They're for martins. Move along, shoo shoo, Well, the woodpecker looked. Well, looked at him and went, just get on with your life. And so he continued to peck at the birdhouse. And so the guy came back 2 or 3 times, and there was that woodpecker just pecking away. And one time he got the broom and tried to shoo him off, So time went past, and then he came back one day, and there were the martin birds. And just so excited and everything. And he started really looking at, well, what happened? I mean, the before and after experience, what occurred? And then he got it. That woodpecker, as an intentional part of nature's family, realized that the holes he had made for the martin birds were too small. So the woodpecker expanded the size of those 10 or 12 holes so those martin birds could find their way to their home. Isn't that awesome? It's an amazing story, but yet not a shocking story of what nature is. Nature in its intelligence is always perfect in its design. And that woodpecker knew that it wasn't going to work the way it was, and came in and felt that relationship that we are connected by the Spirit of life and made it better. And that's what individuals do when they come to you as your intentional family. Intentional family can be people that you work with in the workplace. It can be people that sing together in the choir. It can be your neighbors that are working on their yard the same time that you're working on yours. It can be individuals in one of your communities or in a place that you work. It could be caring for the elder in a skilled nursing facility. It could be expanded to the people that hang out over at the coffee bar over at Wings Bookstore or Encore, or having a nice day here at Spice Routes. Or it could be that we come together as sacred gatherers on a Sunday as an intentional family that through purpose and through discipline and through vision, we create something greater than the space that we currently hold. We have individuals or laws of nature that work with us, that when the whole to God is too little, we have people that grow us and help develop us in a way that we can feel that immeasurable love coming in a new definition and in a new way. Do you agree with that? Does that work for you if we talk about that today? Well, that was the space that I was kind of feeling as that when I was growing up, and you need to hear that first and foremost, let me just clear something. I love my family. I would get on my knees for them anytime. So when I tell stories about my family, please get that we are good. And please get that, at 30, it was no longer their fault. It was mine. So I want to clear that from all you mothers and fathers that start getting and going and getting worked up when I talk about my dad or something, because we're good, okay? We're really good. I don't know about when my next book comes out how good we're going to be, but we're good now. We're good now. All right, so anyway, I felt like as a child that I was adopted because I was born metaphysical. And I just had my own understanding of how I thought life worked. and I couldn't find anybody that seemed to have that same understanding. That's a very lonely place. Do you remember the poster that they had in the 60s that sometimes you're more alone on a mountain than you are in a crowd? And that's how I felt. I was seeking and searching for an intentional family. You know, and my family had discipline. My father had discipline. Faithfully every day he took his decongestants 5 times a day. And they really wire you up, you know. They're like espresso glorified, you know. And he was very disciplined about having sugar so much throughout the day. And I followed the ways of my father, like so many of us do, you know. Follow the ways of my family. And I took on those same kind of disciplines. You know, often people use the word discipline and they think being a disciple means that you're disciplined to good things. But you can actually be disciplined to things that will literally harm you, or things that get in your way of your highest and best good. Do you relate to that? I know none of you do that, but you know, you may have known some people that have. And I started out that way myself, very disciplined, but not necessarily going in the right direction. And I also observed that many people said that when they were raising their children that they weren't going to be like their parents. But you know, when you work with the law of cause and effect, when you say you don't want to be something, guess what you become? What you didn't want to be. Everybody breathe. You know it's true. Because we're putting into a law. You see, the law of the universe, our prayers do not make the distinction of where we're kidding or whether we're for real. And so we put that mindset in. So I made a decision early on that I didn't want to say that I didn't want to do life like my parents did. I wanted to do life according to what God had created me to be. And I had lots of blessings and learnings from them that I still use today and for the rest of my life. So it's both and, you see, it's not either or. But it's fascinating when we look at intentional family. A prayer group is an intentional family. A partnership, a relationship, husband-wife, same-sex partners, they are a family. They are an intentional family. The question is, what do we intend? What do we hold together? You know, do we try to just get through the week, or are we dreaming big that we'll have so many amazing things to talk about during the week? You know, how do we intend our family to be? Often people come together in family and they don't want to be what they didn't have, but so they just keep regurgitating what they didn't have, so that's what they still have more of. I couldn't repeat that again if I tried. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, so there you go with that. But if you question this at all, because it's not always on a conscious level, if you question it at all, let me tell you a story. About 3 years ago, I decided I was guided to see a professional microscopist guy that did blood analysis, live blood analysis. And so I went to like this hour-and-a-half appointment because I wanted to see, you know, where am I with my health and my well-being and my energy, because I always want to have more than enough to go around. And so they do these checks with your blood. And the good news is, you know, it's your blood. You know, because it wasn't shipped somewhere else. You're standing right there. You see the blood. It's going on the microscope, and you look at it. And oh my gosh, there's nothing like it. I'm looking at setting something up like that here. I just got that this morning. That'd be good to do. Because there's nothing like that experience when you see the live view on a computer going, that's me. That's my blood. Check it out, you know. You know, that's that. But it also shows you things that you can do to better yourself, and things to take care of right now instead of hearing about it on down the road when somebody else is telling you about it. And so the other thing that this professional has the ability to do, and the best way I know to relate to it, since that's not my profession, is to look at it from this perspective. You know how they can cut a trunk of a tree, and then they can see incrementally, according to the changes of the trunk, they can tell and measure like weather conditions, the age of the tree, et cetera, right? Well, they can do that with your blood. They take little drops of blood and they go through incrementally like every 5 or 10 years, and they can see, according to the blood and measuring, what has occurred in your life during that period of time. So I was sitting there, you know, going, oh my goodness, what he's going to see. I was kind of more concerned about when he got into my 20s, you know, what you going to see, you know, but He gets to a place between 10 and 15 years old that I am. And so he looks at that and he says, oh yeah, this blood shows me that you had an accident with your knee. And he said, you're 11 years old. And he said, there's a lot of anger here. Well, my mouth just dropped because I said, oh my gosh, how did you know that? And he said, well, your blood tells me. Is that amazing or what? I know, that's what I thought, amazing. And I went on to tell him, I said, well, what happened was, did you want to know what happened? Okay, what happened is that my parents weren't so big on going to church. But my grandfather was, and he was one that it was almost like a world record to go as many times and never miss. And I, not to make light of that, I mean, because obviously, look what I did for my life. But he was really into it, and he was into wanting everybody to go, and not everybody wanted to be like him and go. And my parents were one of those. And so one Sunday he came down to pick me up, and we were running late. And he was already upset with my mom and dad because they weren't bringing me. So that's the way we started out in our spiritual experience, coming from that place. And I was anxious. And my dog started chasing our car down the road, of course, to add to the drama. And so I said, well, I got to go run my dog back. We're going to have to wait. Oh, boy, that just made his day. And so I go running the dog back to the house. Well, as I'm running to the car, so he wouldn't have to wait too long, he's not paying me attention. He's focusing on backing the car up. And so he hits me with the automobile and right into my knee and knocks me into the ditch. And I remember to this day, my little fishnet hose with straw all in it. And I just cleaned myself up and we went on to church. In the South, like nothing ever happened, And so in that space, what it made me realize is how we lose intention of what the whole point is. I would have been so happy that day if we just stayed on the side of the road and prayed. You know what I mean? Or just praise God right there in that moment. But because we had to get somewhere else, it's like, let's just push that to the side. So obviously I hadn't settled that in my heart. And so that came to me and it revealed itself to me so I could do my forgiveness work around that. So my knee could feel better, because he won't see that next time he checks my blood. But you see, that's part of what the oohs and ohs and ahs of life are, the aching that we have. Often different healers say that certain parts of your body, they have aches because there's something in there that's a memory. And so the best I could say and what I do is reveal itself to me so that I might be healed, so the greater me may be revealed, you see. So that's that consciousness. That's that consciousness of awareness. And that's what happens. And so that's part of what happened when we were working with Spirit Expressing this year, when we realized that there had been a school in Haiti filled with little children, and they had lost their school because of nature's tragedy. And so they were meeting in 2 rooms, but they needed our help. Many hands make light work. And because we have had a greater intention for them, you see, it doesn't take a lot. I think that's sometimes the point for us to realize. It doesn't take a lot to change something. You can have one house improving the way it looks on the outside, and you'll start to notice every house in the neighborhood does the same. With this small gesture of giving this school the Haiti Pour la Foi, which means the Haiti School of Faith, just showing them that they are connected to something here in St. Petersburg. It has changed their energy. It's changed their dedication to school. It's feeling like the world is a kind and loving place. It's those little moments, those little steps that make such a difference that we can do. It's not about how much money necessarily. It's not about how much time. It can be one small act of faith. Are you ready to be someone's intentional family? Are you ready to put the word kind back in humankind? It's by design that those two words belong together, not apart, you see.